Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Out of Our League. Today we've got a really exciting guest. You're gonna love him, hopefully, maybe. I don't know. I think everybody loves him. Maybe not for those hot takes. We'll see. Anyway, you don't even know who we're talking about yet. Actually, you probably do because you're watching the screen. Anyway, first up, we have Cesar Towers. How are you doing today?
Off to a great start. Every show is off to a smooth, not a jittery at all start. Really quickly,
If I'm not making you cringe, I don't know if I'm doing my job right.
Really quickly, hey everybody, wear a fucking mask. All right, there we go.
Thank you for that message. Next up, we have our producer, Gage. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Phil. Thank you.
Are you sure about that?
Yep, everything is great.
See, I feel like you answered that like Kevin answers things where he's stressed out and everything's on fire in the background. He's like, yep, everything's cool, dude. Everything's cool.
Oh,
See the recording, our faces are going to be stretched vertically across the screen, and there's going to be a goat running across. I don't even know.
I have that power. I will do it.
McKenna, how are you doing today? How's taking a break from being the producer going?
Living the life. It's great. I don't gotta worry about what Gage is worrying about right now. So it's always a good day.
Must be nice.
Disembodied voice number one. Ben, please be excited. How are you doing today?
Oh, it's been a while.
Thank you for wrecking all of our eardrums. We appreciate
I
that.
had to get up there. Loving the energy, buddy. Loving the energy.
And our second disembodied voice, Carl. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
We haven't got video over here in New Zealand yet, Carl?
No, we haven't evolved that far yet.
Hopefully.
Audio only.
You know, the best part is they live in the future, but they don't have video
They
technology.
don't have any technology.
Well,
Things take a turn next year, let me tell you.
yeah, we
It's
only
actually
tell you the
like
good
cans
things.
and string that they're calling us through right now.
Exactly.
If only. That's high tech.
The elves will get there eventually. You know, they'll cahoot with the hobbits and make something happen.
That's great, dude. Flying around on giant eagles, it's awesome.
Anyway, our wonderful guest today, who's probably regretting his decision to come on this show right now, is Barrett. Don't call him Mr. Courtney. How are you doing today?
What?
I'm doing well. To give some context, I was emailed by one nice Philip J. Woodward and asking me to come onto the show and talk with y'all, which I'm very excited to do today. But he addressed me in the original email as Mr. Courtney, and I don't think I can ever recall being called Mr. Courtney before, because that is my dad. Like, you know, there's the whole joke of like, oh, don't just call me Barrett. Mr. Courtney's my father, and like y'all know him as Mr. Barrett, but he is Mr. Courtney to me. So that like just made me very uncomfortable. Of like, oh, God, oh. Don't do that. I gave Philip some shit for that. I was like, don't call me Mr. Courtney. You sent me millions of photoshops before. Just call me Barrett, man.
You sent me unimaginable things before. You have no right to be calling me Mr. Courtney.
There's a weird bond that we have with all of the weird shit that Nick and Andy has ever told you to Photoshop. So yeah,
You're not wrong.
Professionalism doesn't exist in this relationship at all.
So, for those who may not know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who do you work for? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm Barrett Courtney. I work at Kind of Funny. I am the social media coordinator and also technical director at Kind of Funny. So I handle scheduling tweets, promoting shows, all of that stuff on social content. And I also help out Kevin Coelho, who runs a lot of the production side of things at Kind of Funny. We're a kind of a small gang of internet content creators where we review video games, review movies, have a bunch of weekly shows covering those topics, and yeah, so that's what I do. That's where I work. You can find all of our stuff, of course, over on youtube.com/kindoffunny, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, etc., so on and so forth.
Now, besides producing a show, what do you feel like is the most stressful part of your job?
Talking to Kevin, maybe. No, I say that with I don't know. To be serious though, I would say like the live production is very stressful, but it's something that I love doing. Even at my time at IGN before Kind of Funny, I was helping out with like a lot of live productions, and it's one of those that like I take a lot of pride in like pulling off like really big productions, but with live productions, like whether working at like Comic-Con or at an E3 or something like that, there's always like a level of stress. But then when you get through it and like wrap it up at the end of the day, it's just like it's that nice balance of like you're stressed because you care, and then when you pull it off, it feels so good. So with Kind of Funny, I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough call. I would say like whenever there's stuff that's like out of the norm, because I'm very detailed centric, and I like scheduling things out. Like I have a weekly calendar for myself of scheduling social posts of like, all right, at this time I'll tweet out a tweet for a host to promote this show. At this time I'll tweet out from the Kind of Funny account promoting a show and stuff. And so like whenever it gets like kind of like, oh, we're doing this special thing and we got to get like all of these tweets, and we need you to live tweet during an event, like whether that's I'm trying to think of like the first one that I helped with. I think there was like a Kind of Funny showcase that we did at one point where I was like having to like live tweet through trailers and stuff. Like that kind of stuff is also weirdly a little live production-y, because like I'm going along with the production while trying to also like cover everything on social media. So I would say like anything that's like outside of like my normal like social schedule where like we need to do like a lot of things, like that's where it gets kind of stressful. Besides that, like we're all friends, and like we all know how to like work with each other and communicate with each other. So there's never any like stress of like, oh god, like I gotta talk to Roger about like this video edit and stuff like that, or I gotta walk over 20 feet and talk to Andy about a thumbnail. Fuck. Yeah, it's I feel like for the most part, at least for my perspective, it's a pretty chill gig.
Nice. Now, do you know Nibelian on Twitter? On Twitter, he's always posting like stuff about video games coming out. He always amazes me in the way that he's able to like watch. I know he's not like live producing video content or something, but the way he's able to like capture screenshots and put descriptions down and do it almost in real time, like while the performance is happening or while the presentation is happening, is always mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like knowing on the back end of like when we have like embargoed stuff that like we're tweeting out like live as it's happening and stuff, like it always makes me wonder if he's ever given a heads up like on certain things, so he knows like, okay, like at this time this thing is going to be revealed, and like when to keep eye outs on stuff. Because like Nibel, and then like even like Wario 64 will do like kind of like hot threads and stuff while streams are happening, and it's like almost instantaneous, and I'm always very impressed by that, because I'm a much slower boy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm like, god damn, y'all impressive out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm too enamored with what's happening on the screen to even pay attention to like something else. I'm just like, ha ha, it's so happy. So yeah, the idea of like actually turning to a different monitor and posting something else at the same time is just baffling. It's really cool. So on the flip side, what do you think your favorite part of the job is?
Honestly, running shows, like that is kind of a passion of mine, is live production. I came from a theater background, and there's just like something that's always been that held with me, jumping from theater over into video game coverage. When I first worked at IGN, I came in as a video capture artist, I think was the official title. So I was capturing gameplay from a bunch of sorts of games, and I loved that as like a foot in the door, and being able to work with a bunch of great people and meet a bunch of new people. And but I knew that was never truly my passion of like, oh, I'm gonna play 1 million games today and edit graphics comparisons and stuff like that. That was always fun, but I always knew of like, looking at some of my coworkers like Alexio and Dan Parkhurst, who were live producing podcasts and stuff like that, and being able to go into the production room and seeing like the director's chair and like all of that technology. I was like, my eyes lit up the first time I went into the studio at IGN, because I was like, this is the kind of stuff that I want to do. And thankfully, like I was able to make some great friends over there who were able to like pushed me in that direction. And even my boss at the time, who was like gameplay capture focused, Destin Legary, knew that was my passion. Like even helped like elevate me to like go do those things. He's like, just as long as you're not, skimping out on your actual work, like yeah, like go have fun and do live production stuff. So yeah, that's definitely carried over into Kind of Funny. Like that was when Tim came to me and said that they wanted to hire me. That was like kind of like the two sides of the coin that he was pitching me with. He was like, yeah, I know you're not like you tweet, but yeah, I know you don't have like a huge history with social media coordination, but I do think it's something that you could pull off, because that was something that I helped out with at I want to say it was Kind of Funny Extra Life 2018 is when I helped out with like a lot of their social promo for that day. So he knew I could do it, but then on the flip side, he's like, I know that you like doing production stuff, so like we would love to have you help alleviate everything that Kevin does, because Kevin does everything. And so yeah, that was like the really exciting part, was to go into Kind of Funny when we were still in a studio and kind of like know the bare bones of how live production works for podcasts, but then like seeing all the like kind of like translating of like how everything IGN had set up and then how everything Kevin had set up in the Kind of Funny studio, and learning kind of the language that Kevin had created in producing Kind of Funny content. And then when we started working from home, that was like the weird thing where I was we were talking a little bit before the show, Philip, you're talking about like not like when we started working from home, not having like a computer to stream on, stuff like that. I was very similar, where like I didn't really have anything at home. I remember the last day in our office, like I took a laptop that I usually use whenever we were like on the road or something to like tweet out for stuff. I took that home. I was like, hey, like I need something to work on, so I'm going to take this. And Kevin was like, all right, cool. And then like over the months, I slowly started building up like my own setup here, and got myself a nice beefy computer. And then like I eventually was able to get a nice enough setup where I could actually run shows, because let me tell you, trying to run OBS and Discord and all of that stuff and sharing a screen on Discord on a laptop, not great. Nothing runs well. So once I finally got a beefier setup, and I could alleviate Kevin again, because he was running almost everything last year. And so like, I think by the time XCast had started, it was decided that I would run XCast, because by then I had just a nice enough setup to be able to run things. And that was like another new step of like, all right, we know like the kind of traditional way to run things, with like TDing and like having all of this like kind of typical production equipment, but how do we translate that at home, and learning kind of like how everyday streamers like run their streams at home, and learning how to translate that into making a podcast with 4-5 people, and kind of learning all of like getting really in depth with OBS, because like when we were using OBS at the studio, it was pretty much just like, all right, we hit the button on to stream, but then everything else is being used, like all of the layouts and like everything was different equipment. So it really gave Kevin and I like opportunity to like get into the weeds in OBS and learn all of this stuff, learn Streamlabs OBS, and learn that we absolutely hate Streamlabs OBS, and we go back to OBS. And there are some nice things about it, like the integration with Streamlabs things. Yeah. But yeah, I hate how it looks and how it handles. And then like learning like SRT streaming and all of this stuff, and like to be able to do gameplay streams that we do every weekday, right? And like Kevin going full on scholar with like trying to figure out like how to get lossless quality gameplay from Greg Miller's house to us, not sharing it over Discord, because there's just a natural loss of quality, and like kind of learning all of that stuff, and like playing around with vmix. It's been like all of that stuff is just really fascinating for me, and that's why I just like I love working at KF, because like it really lets me be passionate about just like the really just nerdy tech stuff that I want to be passionate about, and like learning from Kev and learning from Nick and stuff like that. It's that aspect, like kind of all of those things put together is just like kind of my favorite part of the job.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a couple Instagram videos that Kevin posted where he showed like the background of like the stuff that you guys were doing, and it looked like he was literally like playing a piano while switching back and forth between all of the different stuff going on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned SRT streaming. I just want to get more into that. Is that how you guys captured the different gameplays from?
Yeah. So we were able to figure that out. It's really hazy because there was so much information that like Kevin was learning in a short amount of time and then trying to throw at me. Like he essentially like went to college for like he didn't actually go to college, but he's like essentially in the Kevin way, most Kevin way possible, like learned like a college worth of information about vmix and srt streaming in like a couple of months, would stay up like trying to figure all this stuff out and then try to explain that like college level education stuff to me, a child. And
in layman's terms, yeah.
So yeah, that's like how we were able to do that, like figuring out how to send things via SRT through vmix and being able to get different feeds at once and being able to switch different gameplay feeds and stuff like that, and being able to simply do it just with OBS, a specific link, and vmix, which was really like the way he figured that out. Like I will never understand, and it was getting to the point like we were trying to figure it out so bad, and then like when he was trying to set me up, because the way that you have to set it up, it's almost dependent on your internet provider. Yeah. And so he has a different internet provider for me. So when we were trying to go into the back end of my internet provider, it was like way more complicated. And we were getting to the point where we had to call my mom, who went to college for IT and shit. That's her profession, is IT. And so like I had to call her and be like, do you know like how to mess around with this stuff? And she was actually the one who was able to like put 2 and 2 together for translation stuff to help me be able to run gameplay streams. So shout out to my moms who helped me do my job. So
the real MVP of Kind of Funny.
Yeah. Awesome.
Without Barrett's mom, we wouldn't have gameplay streams on Kind of Funny.
Yeah,
but that's interesting because I've seen a lot of people speculate on how, because like there's no real information out there on how to do this. It's basically what Kevin learned through the fake college course he took, and people have been like speculating, oh, maybe they're just sending it, like they're casting their screens through Discord. And as somebody that uses Discord a lot, that would be horrible.
Yeah, we use screen sharing for Discord as more of a confidence monitor, because we used to actually have like a physical confidence monitor in the studio. And so like we'll share our OBS screen like whenever we're on podcasts and stuff like that. Just to know like when we're out of an intro, and like if we're sharing something like just like a YouTube video or some dumb image that Nick or Tim found on the internet, and so like we do kind of use that for gameplay streams, only to share gameplay and audio. Like for example, Metal Gear Solid, right? We've been playing through the Metal Gear Solid streams. My first time playing them, Mike's first time experiencing them. And so the way we handle that, when there's only one person playing the game and not like a group game like Apex Legends, where the talent isn't as dependent on watching each other's gameplay. They're just paying attention to what they're playing. And so we'll share OBS in that sense to help the other people who are just hanging out, talking, want to watch the gameplay and hear the gameplay. That's how we'll do that, is through Discord. So that'll be the only way we use it. There's like using Discord gameplay footage to show off a game in like a final video is definitely not the way to go, for sure. We did do it for go ahead.
I was gonna say, but as far as the broadcast, none of it is like through the Discord capture. It's all through the vmix SRT.
Yeah, exactly. The one we kind of got we did Discord share for, what was it? It was Gamescast last week, because we had the developer of 12 Minutes on. And we just wanted to have it kind of simple. We knew 12 minutes wasn't like a very like it's not like there's a lot of fidelity being lost with that kind of gameplay. So I was just like, let's not complicate this more than it needs to be. Let's just have Greg screen share his gameplay, and then I can just make it work in OBS. So yeah, it's all OBS and vmix that we kind of figured everything out through, and internet provider going through the weeds on the back end stuff. So it's definitely not an easy task, but when you figure it out, and again, I'm not the person to ask if like how to go through all of that stuff. It really helps the quality of the product, which is, again, shout out to Kevin, because I joked about my mom being like the MVP of getting us gameplay streams,
really
but
Kevin.
Kevin really like it came through and figured out everything that we could possibly need to continue working from home and making the best possible content that we can.
That's really awesome.
And jumping off of that, is there, because a lot of people, it seems to be like in the community, everybody wants to be a host, but I also hear everybody say, I want to work for Kind of Funny as well. And it's always the same people. Mm-hmm. To you, as somebody that's like in the back end and you see everything, if you see like new hires coming through, I'm not asking you who do you see coming through, but like what could Kind of Funny use like as far as new hires in the future?
That's a good question. Like, we've had a great kind of new wave of hosts come in, which has been great to kind of uplift voices that I don't think Kind of Funny had really had in the past. So yeah, and like, because we're a smaller company, naturally you're gonna come on camera at one point, right? Like I wasn't hired with the idea of being a host, but then eventually like I was like, hey, I have like this really fun idea. Greg, should we stream Batman on a Sunday to celebrate the 10-year anniversary? And like just naturally that kind of stuff happens.
Zelda review also.
Yeah, Zelda in review, which was like, I can't even remember how I pitched that to Tim and why he said yes. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, with where we're going forward, that's a great question. And, I would say like, that's definitely something that Tim and Greg are probably thinking about with, and Nick, obviously, of just like what do we need in the future, and like where the new studio is at and all this stuff, and like what we'll need to like help kind of fill out and continue making great content out of that new studio, and like what hands that we'll need. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like where the kind of next direction was. Cause yeah, like when it was just the kind of core crew, the question of like, all right, like are they going to need a social person or like a PR person? And then like that's when like Joey came in. All right, we need video editors. That's like when Andy, Cool Greg, and then like eventually Roger came through. So yeah, it's really dependent on like where they see the kind of like the next step of production wise, I think of what we'll need. Maybe it's another video editor. Maybe it's another hands helping out Kevin and I. Maybe it's someone who actually has studied social media and can meme way better than I can. So I don't know.
You put up some good stuff.
I once in a blue moon, I'll be like, I'm actually like with it right now. I'm with the kids. I'm on the same level, but it's very rare. I
with the skateboard.
I will say I don't have the same natural talent of tweeting as Andy. Like Andy will just come on to the Kind of Funny account at like 11 at night and just tweet out like the funniest thing. I'm like, damn, that's so good. Why are you so good at this? So yeah, like we definitely. I don't think there will be a shortage of roles that we'll need in the future, but yeah, I think it's tough to say if just from my perspective of like what the next step will be from here.
Yeah, I just wanted to see like where do you think it would be heading?
Yeah, I would say just more production stuff, especially with like where like the next studio is going, and I'm trying to like not say anything too specific because I don't remember how much we've revealed about the new studio. I haven't even
isn't the
been
town
to
hall
it
this
yet.
week or something?
Sorry. The town hall is this upcoming Wednesday, so I'll be interested to see what kind of questions we get for that. So I'm just as excited to watch it as y'all are. So
all right. So before we get too far away from it, you mentioned Zelda in review. We have a community question from one Stephen M. Souza, who asks, did the Switch release of Skyward Sword change your ranking of it in the placings that you made?
Oh, jeez, I gotta bring up the ranking. I would say like my overall thoughts on Skyward Sword did not change with the with the new HD release. Like, I think it was much more tolerable this time around, just because I didn't have to emulate the Wii through the Wii U using Wii Motion Plus, which was kind of bullshit. And like totally being fine doing a skyward strike throughout the entire game until the final boss, and for some reason the game would just not register that I was pointing all the way up. And so like being able to turn off all motion controls for that, and just like having a much more like moment to moment gameplay, just better experience, was great. But still, the overall design of dungeons and the overworld, and like repeating areas and stuff like that, like I would still, that's what brought it down so much for me, and that's why it's lower in my ranking. Hold on, I got it here. So let's see. In the, I think, 11 games that I played and ranked, Skyward Sword came in at 9, only above Zelda 1 and Zelda 2, and that's just because I'm a millennial who did not grow up with those games. So so yeah, like I think I said this before, like when the embargo went up, like I would still, the overall quality of the game and like level design, all of that stuff countered in, I would still probably give it a 7. The updates themselves, I would give like specifically like an 8, because I think it does a good job at like revamping this game that is kind of controversial in the Zelda fandom of whether people love it or hate it. So yeah, I personally wouldn't change it because it's right below Link's Awakening, and I also have mixed feelings about Link's Awakening as well. But yeah, I think it's fine. It's got cool lore stuff, and me as a huge Zelda like lore nerd, like there's some fun story stuff. But yeah, as an overall game, I think it's still pretty much a 7.
Really quickly,
Well,
did you see that Did you see that Brian David Gilbert video about like the Zelda timeline?
Oh yeah, that's kind of, was that what it? No, what inspired Zelda in review was actually the Good Blood video about how the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is secretly the saddest Zelda game, and then like when Tim showed us that back in 2019. I kind of started getting like, oh man, like there's so many great stories. I was like reminded of like why Zelda is so great. And then I do remember around that time, a friend of your show and personal friend of mine, Alex O'Neill, had me watch the Brian David Gilbert video where I think the first video he had me watch was the Skyrim, the books in Skyrim.
Oh, the Skyrim
I was like,
book report.
this is hilarious. I don't care about Skyrim, but this is still funny. And then he had me watch the Zelda timeline one, and I was like, this is really good content. I'm sad he's not like, he's kind of doing his own thing now, right? Because he's not at Polygon
anymore.
Yeah, but he's still kind of doing just like really weird, goofy stuff.
Yeah. I just thought it was great how he was like, the Zelda timeline on its own doesn't make sense, so we're gonna get the weird shit out. We're gonna get like Zelda chess, we're gonna get Zelda Monopoly in here. Yeah. And because it doesn't make any sense. Like the Zelda timeline is really fucked up in so many ways.
It's like Kingdom Hearts, where it makes sense if you spend enough time with it, but so it requires a lot of time to like sit down and make sense of all of it, I would say.
You have to be a real big fan to be like, it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
McKenna, do you have any production questions on your end, or Gage? Or anything? I don't know. It doesn't to be
Post-it note. Post-it note.
Post-it note. I do got the post-it note. Of course I do. So right now I'm going to school for production. So like I'm all of that. This is fantastic. Like learning all the back end stuff is just, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. So I was curious specifically what goes into doing a live stream or doing a show. Like what do you have to do?
So and is this like specifically like work from home, or like just like in general and stuff like that?
Oh, I guess like what's your process? General. Like what's your process? Like what kind of things people not really know that you do?
So like with technical directing, like kind of funny. It's kind of chaos. It's like a month ahead of a big thing that we know we're gonna do. We like kind of talk about it for like, hey, like let's just have this like in the back of our heads for the next month, and then it'll be like a week before, and we're like, oh god, we got to do stuff. So I'd say like the process isn't too much different from just at least for kind of funny content. For something special like a live stream or anything isn't too different from just like running podcasts. It's just more of like, all right, we kind of need like different assets to make this a little spruced up, make it feel a little different. So that'll like rely more heavily on Andy and Nick. Andy making assets, and Nick doing kind of graphical stuff. And so it's just like kind of like hitting people up and making sure of like, hey, do we have this asset? Is this being worked on right now? Just to make sure it's ready in time, hopefully by the day before that we have to run something. And so, yeah, it's like usually like when we were in the office, it was just like kind of flying by the seat of our pants of like, all right, like we know they're going to sit at the table, we're going to interview someone, or, you know, we're doing a live reacts. So we have to just like make sure like, all right, let's get a couple more mics here. Let's make sure like the shock mic is ready just in case someone wants to sit in the background and hang out. I would say like definitely the most production heavy stuff would be stuff like the extra life streams where we go for 24 hours, and that one is definitely, it gets like very like, all right, we got to get very specific for the first couple hours, and then we're just kind of wing it for the rest of it and to see how we're feeling. And so yeah, that would require just like Kevin and I like switching the set to not have the desk, but to have like the more KFAF set, have places for people to relax in case, you know, Anthony Carboni decides to last minute fly up from LA to hang out for a good while for those kind of streams. And so it's a lot of like making sure like we've got a space to make people comfortable when we're in the studio, like making sure we have all the consoles that we need to have set up, maybe test those a little bit like the day or two beforehand, just to make sure we're not dealing with like HDCP problems from a certain console. Yeah, exactly. PS3s where you can't even turn HDCP off, which is really fun. Which I got to figure out for Metal Gear Solid 4 whenever we get to that. That'll be
really quickly.
Component or composite. I always get them flipped. Use the HD version of that, the RGB cables. Those will bypass. It still doesn't look great. It's not going to be full HD quality.
The best way to do it, I remember, is from an HDMI splitter, because that was I had to do a lot of PS3 capturing from when I was working at IGN. I had like there was like a bunch of PS1 games I had to play, and the best way to play them was through the PS3. And so yeah, I think naturally just at my desk I had already had an HDMI splitter, so I think that like into the gameplay capture system that we had at IGN that wasn't Elgato but like a much more complicated machine. It was those were able to bypass it really easily. It's just the matter of like, God, I gotta go buy an HDMI splitter and kind of wait for it to.
Well, you can spend it on the company. You can spend it on the company card. You can spend it on the card.
Greg Miller's about to have a baby. I don't want to put him out like that. You know?
Right. Really quickly, I was gonna say you're talking about Anthony Carboni and Extra Life. I remember watching that stream, and really late in the hours, they're just drinking like duct taped hands. I forget what they're drinking.
Edward White Claw hands.
Edward White Claw. I just remember them drinking White Claws, and Greg's like, I don't know why we try to schedule anything. We never get past the first 4 hours, and then the stream is exactly the way we scheduled it.
Yeah, we schedule it like we knew at a certain point of like, all right, we're gonna schedule at the first 4 hours, and then the next 20 hours we're just gonna kind of play it loose.
See what happens.
We'll have extra cameras ready in case we need to go outside to shave Greg's chest into a Batman symbol, or if we want to like shotgun White Claws outside and
really
stuff
Fran
like
outside
that.
for like 3 hours.
Oh my God, I feel so bad about that. I still don't think he's forgiven us.
That was
So yeah, so that's like kind of how it was done for kind of funny. I would say for a more traditional kind of bigger company like IGN, those were that's where hey, E3 is a month out, Comic-Con's a month out. Let's like we're going to get this whole team together that we know that we're going to send to either E3 or Comic-Con, and that's usually led by like a producer, right? Like Comic-Con, I'm probably mixing up conventions at some point, but like someone I would work with a lot was Zach Ryan, who's now over at Twitch. And so like it was pretty common for him to be like kind of the lead producer of the live production, of like figuring like out what he needs of a technical director, someone to run live graphics, someone to run B-roll. The camera crew I think was handled more by like higher ups like Fran and Dave Toole and stuff like that, and like having us sit all down, and like by that time we kind of roughly know what the run of show is going to be. We know through embargo details like what games we're going to have on the show, and so everybody can kind of be prepared of like, all right, we got to wait for B-roll assets from this company. Hopefully those don't come in hot, and we can actually like work with them and test those out and make sure they aren't sending us 4K footage that's going to break our entire system. And then my role typically at live productions for IGN was running graphics. So I was making and running lower thirds. And so a lot of that was me going through like making my own spreadsheet and kind of like meticulously going through the run of show and being like, all right, these people aren't on here. I got to make a 4-person graphic for the intro and outro of this segment. We're going to have gameplay here. I need to make sure to make a graphic of like, this is gameplay from this company for this segment and stuff like that. And the way our graphic system worked at IGN, I don't know if it's different now, but it was kind of like made from someone in the company. It wasn't like a normal like graphics generator. It was something that we could like kind of make and change on the fly. And so yeah, a lot of that was like the week of the show. I would like kind of pre-make all of these lower thirds, and like the cool way that system worked, like I could export it into all of this code and like copy it, save it, because every time you would open up, it would reset itself. And then I could like copy it, paste it, put it back into the system, and then everything would be pre-made. So a lot of it was like going through pre-making all of that stuff for stuff like E3 one year. I think it was the only E3 that I went to where we were also simulcasting onto Disney XD or something like that. We were covering E3 through Disney, where like, because our graphics weren't made for TV graphics, they were more for like streaming stuff. Like TV has like, they still kind of want things run as if, grandma and grandpa who live out in the middle of the country who still have a 4:3 TV are going to watch Disney XD E3 coverage. So like I had to go into the like back end of this graphic system that was made from the ground up inside IGN, where the person who made it hadn't worked there in years, and figure out of like, all right, like how do I move up these pre-made graphics and like go into like, I had to like weirdly like kind of decipher code, which I never went to school for, and like work with one of the smartest people I've ever worked with, Dave Toole, to kind of like decipher all of that. And so yeah, it's honestly very long answer short. It's a lot of hectic running around and figuring things out last minute, because kind of the skeleton of a special stream or a special production, because it's not too much different from running a podcast or running like a regular gameplay stream. It's just like figuring out all of the assets you need to make everything look great and not have anything turn on fire, which typically with live production it will. So that's just the other headspace, and that I'll kind of give you a heads up on, is that like things will go wrong and it'll be okay, and you'll fix it as soon as you can fix it, and no one's life is on the line at the end of the day for a live production like that. So that'll be the little bit of advice that I can give as someone who is easily stressed out by everything and anything that can happen during a live production. That is the kind of little tip I can give you.
That's fantastic. I know what you mean by like the lower thirds thing, because that I did that my old school. We had a weekly news production thing, and I always did lower thirds. So yeah, I was like running around looking through scripts, trying to find people's names, how to spell names, what their titles were. It's like, oh my god. And it was like, and half hour before it went live. I was like, well, why are we ready before this?
This segment had 5 people and now it has 4 people, and I got to recreate this entire thing. Oh yeah, we've all been there, we've all done it, and it's a chaos fire. But when you get to the end of it and it's like you pulled it off and you're like, yes, it's over. Like it's over, and it feels good. And not that it's just over, but that it was a fun production to work on. So, and I've thankfully had the privilege to work on like productions and sets that were never super chaotic and never in a way where things were like on the line and like everybody was like high tense and stuff like that. There have definitely been moments, but like I thankfully have been able to work with people who like we all know how to communicate with each other, and we all know that we have each other's backs, and so that's something that I was super thankful for with both IGN and Kind of Funny. So yeah.
That's literally Gage at the beginning of every single show. How many people are going to be on? I don't know, like somewhere between 5 and 8.
I feel that pain. That's always like whenever we have a guest, right? Like I have a feeling that Andy might not be on a show. That's always like I try to Slack Tim like an hour before a Gamescast. I'm like, yo, like, I mean, how many people we think? And he's like, that's gonna be a tough answer right now, buddy. And so I'm like, all right, I just gotta maybe 4, maybe 5. We'll figure it out, and we'll do it on the fly. No worries.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten everything set up for like a 5-person show, overlays, everybody's cameras perfectly resized, and then a 6th person will jump in, and it's like, fuck. Now I have to add another spot.
I mean, yeah, like we deal with that all the time. Yeah. Oh yeah, we do that live during our gameplay streams. And I know Kevin has it kind of set up a little differently than I do. Like, yeah, I just have like 5 display captures and then kind of like move them around and recrop as I go. But I think he goes a little even more in depth, and I want to maybe try to figure out how he does it. Of like he has folders, so he'll have like a 4-person folder, a 5-person folder, and he has somehow done the math of like he knows when it's Discord is full screen and it's going to have like the crop, like it's always going to somehow miraculously be on someone. I don't know like how he doesn't run into like, oh man, this one has like the screen share being shown and stuff like that. Like he like really went through and it's like, so all he has to do is like hit a button and then hit a different button and then it's all fixed. And yeah, that's a lot of figuring out that I would have to do. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll just recrop it. Who cares? It'll take
Kevin,
30 seconds.
You're giving Kevin a little too much credit there. I mean, he's great at what he does, but I can't tell you how many times I watch a Kind of Funny podcast or anything else, and all of a sudden his camera pops up and he's like, hold on guys, everything's broken. Okay, we're good.
Because like that's what like Kevin's always trying to work on something, and that's something I always appreciate about him. Like even if he's running a show, he's trying to like think of new solutions for future shows, and so that's like every once in a while, like yeah, his camera will accidentally pop on because he's like messing with something or stuff like that, and then naturally just computers just are gonna be computers and shit out for some reason. So yeah,
for sure.
And yet he still finds time to play a Switch at the same time. Who knows?
Oh yeah, when there's a podcast where there's not like where I know like, hey, there's not going to be a lot of B-roll here. I'm going to pull out my Switch and play some 80s for a little bit, and then when I know like, oh shit, we're going to play some B-roll soon. I'm like, all right, I'm going to put this down over here, and then we're going to play some B-roll.
I was going to say, I think it's interesting because there's moments where I can tell who's producing, even if I can't hear who it is. Because Kevin, when he does the B-roll, he has the cameras on top, but when you do it, sometimes you don't. Or most of the times you don't.
Yeah, I personally, and this is like a fun conversation that I want to have with him personally, and I think this is just like an aesthetic kind of difference that we have. Where typically if there's cameras like being shown at the same time as B-roll, at least the way that I was taught to do it, it's like typically you want it like either lower right-hand corner or lower left-hand corner, and I think the way I understand like the way he'd balance it out with like Games Daily. So you have like we want to keep the logo on the show as like long as like as much as possible, just in case there's some random person coming into the live stream and they're like, what am I watching? What is this? What is this show called? And they're not looking at the Twitch headline because no one looks at the Twitch headline.
And even then, somebody's gonna ask, "What is this?"
Yeah. So like you have the Games Daily logo, and then so I understand of like why he also like wants the cameras up there, so there's not like that weird like kind of diagonal feeling.
Yeah.
So I get that like aesthetically. For me personally, and this is I think something that was just kind of nailed into my head working at IGN in gameplay videos and live production, where it's like if we're showing B-roll, the focus should be just the B-roll, and like you know. Podcasts and shows are just usually for people sitting and talking, and it's not that interesting. So like yeah, cool, it's like nice to see like facial expressions and stuff like that, but at the end of the day when they're talking about a game and like people are interested in seeing the game, you want to have the game centered and focused. That's how I ran Podcast Beyond as well, of like making sure like when Dorna was writing a kind of run of show, I would go in the day before and gather everything. Like I would gather every trailer to have it like preloaded into the B-roll system to have it play live. Just in case there's those audience members when there's a game brought up and they haven't heard of it before, to show off that game, to be like, oh, okay, like if they're watching visually, to give them even more of an idea of like what is being talked about. And so that's just like something that I wanted to carry over with Kind of Funny, and just like how I personally want to run a show is like having that B-roll be the main focus. And naturally, if there's something that like we want their live reactions to, like, yeah, like I'll have their cameras up, but that's usually something with a different layout, with like the gameplay streams layout where there's like 4 people on the side and stuff like that. But if they're just talking about Death's Door and all of them know what Death's Door looks like, I just want to have it be kind of the focus there, and have like still have the logo of the show in like the bottom right corner. And just like that was something I tested out, I think, at E3 this year, when we were doing the games cast for the reviewing each conference, because like they're no longer live reacting to it, so we don't really need to see their facial expressions. And just in case there are new people who are coming into our content who might be trying to catch up on like everything that's been shown, for me what's most important as a producer is showing that footage. So yeah, that's why like having their cameras on there, I think, especially with like the way that Kevin has it set up, like the B-roll is a little smaller, and then you're also kind of like looking everywhere, of like looking at the host and like looking at the B-roll and stuff. So yeah, I think that's just like kind of a kind of creative choice that that we differentiate on, which I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. That's just like that's just how it's embedded into my brain.
Even then, the way you said that, the way IGN used to do it, which was just focused on B-roll, they kind of changed it recently. I haven't been watching a lot of their podcasts, but recently what they do is like they'll have the B-roll, and then if there's one person that's talking for a long time, they'll bring up that person next to the B-roll. So it'll be like one face cam. They've done that a few times. Like on
this is for IGN, correct?
IGN, yeah. Like everybody does their own thing differently, and they obviously change over time. So yeah, I think it's interesting.
Shout out to Alexio and Dan and all of them who are innovating in fun ways and being able to do that live, because I think they also like they don't do those like in post, like they've found out ways to do that live, which is really cool. And it's something that like that was stuff that they taught me, and so it's cool to see them kind of figure things out even more in a work from home setting as well.
So it looked like you had a lot of questions on that Post-it note there. McKenna, did you have anything else you wanted to ask?
Oh gosh, it's I was just curious, what type of hobbies or whatnot do you have outside of Kind of Funny and work and whatnot?
It's tough. It's tough to have hobbies when your hobby turned into your job. This like for the longest time, and there's been conversations about this for years, even outside of our industry, of like when fun turns into work, and it's hard to find that balance outside of it. And that's something that I struggle with personally, because honestly, my hobby outside of working is figuring out how to improve work, and it's definitely not a healthy thing. So like this was doing this kind of stuff, like making content on YouTube, was a hobby of mine back in even back in like high schools, before I was getting to video game coverage. Like I was making like short skits with my buddy, like my theater buddies and stuff like that, and just like figuring out like how to video edit and stuff like that. Like that was all like in my extra time outside of school and work, up until what was it? It was like 2016, where like by then I was making my I had my own YouTube channel, doing video game coverage and like podcast stuff with a couple of buddies of mine from high school, while at the same time like working at Vans and like trying to go to school and trying to figure a way to get into the industry. So like the YouTube stuff was the hobby, and then one day I started working at IGN and I was like, wait, what do I do outside of this then? Like this was the hobby and now it's the job. So currently it's just like being able to find time to like play video games, because that's been a lot lately as well, with like the amount of work that we do, and then being married, having a dog, having a very I love her, needy dog. So there's only a certain amount of time that we get. So yeah, my wife and I like to just like find shows to watch, and we just like watch a bunch of things together. We like to take Lulu out on a bunch of walks, and just kind of like be able to hang out with friends like when we can, in the middle of this pandemic that continues on. And so yeah, like I don't know. I have thought of like getting into like the Max Scoville section of like hobbies of like with like toys and like kind of like creating like mini sculpture things and stuff like that. That was something like my grandpa is like really passionate about. Like all of these are like OG like Era 1 Star Wars toys that would come in like black or like in gray, and my grandpa would go in and like paint them himself, and he was like always into models and stuff. And I've always like modeling was always something that like I was always interested in, but then like in the last couple of years it's just been like oh gosh, where's the time? So stuff like that. And then other hobbies that I've had with like that I unfortunately can't do in a small apartment in San Francisco. Like I was very passionate in music. I played drums for a very long time in my life, and up until like the second year of college, where I was living with a buddy who had a big enough space for a drum set. Like I haven't played drums in like probably in 7 years, which is like really sad to think about. That was a great stress reliever. That was a great hobby to have as a stress relief of just hitting the shit out of stuff and playing Blink-182 songs like over and over again. That was something that I used to have that I unfortunately don't have anymore, and I want to try to figure something out. Like Alyssa, who my wife, who also grew up playing drums, we've talked about over and over again of like, could we get an electric drum set to kind of fit somewhere? I don't know. So yeah, I'm in the kind of in a flux of hobbies, I guess, right now.
Yeah. My big hobby is it's the production right now. I do podcasts and editing, so it's like I'm hoping similar to you, where hobby into job, hopefully. I'm just thinking about when it does become a job. I'm like, what else do I do outside? That's because I do a lot of it. So it's like, oh boy, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, like find the other little things that might not be hobbies right now, but that can turn into hobbies and stuff like that. And like, we haven't done one in a while, but like Alyssa and I like doing puzzles. For a while, we were getting a lot of Legos, and Legos are pricey, but that was like something that we loved doing, like going to Target and picking out a Lego set, and that would be our fun Friday night, like building Legos and like watching whatever show for the 10th time again. So sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, to be fair to McKenna, you do crochet, or you do not crochet.
I do cross stitch. That is true.
Yeah. She did the kind of funny cross stitch. I don't know if you remember that, but she did every member of Kind of Funny.
Oh yeah! Oh, awesome! That's awesome.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I know. My wife has been getting into like making like blankets and stuff. Her and our old roommate for a majority of the pandemic were like getting into just like making homemade blankets and stuff, and figuring all that out, and just like little ways to pass the time. Which again, for me, with like the little time that I have outside of work and spending time with loved ones, it is like thinking about what video game I want to play, and then being like, I could play this, I could replay this. Now I'm not in the mood. Now I want to watch something. Now I kind of want to play something. And so, yeah, that's what I do in my free time.
Very relatable.
I feel like this is kind of what I imagine Kevin's life is like too, as far as like always trying to improve the stream. So like, what is his hobby outside of work? Because we've been trying to get
Kevin's
him on the
building
show.
a fence or something. Like he's doing some like.
Like,
Fucking,
he does
true.
that,
He does
but
have-
also on top of like, oh yeah, I can fix your car, and like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go build a fence for this turtle that now lives at my house and stuff like that. And so yeah, he's always just building and creating, and
him and his like 27 cars or whatever.
But we've tried to get him on the show a few times now, and he wants to do it, but it's like finding that time, finding that moment that we can get him on is the hard part right now. But we're gonna get there.
With the work from home stuff. Like I would say he is one of the consistently busiest people for sure. So yeah, he's a busy boy, that Kevin.
Especially with
Gage, did you have any? Yeah, right. Gage, did you have any questions for production questions or anything for Barrett?
Ben and Carl, if you guys want to chime in too, I don't know.
We'll get to those New Zealanders. They're still in the future where they got to get back to our timeline, you know?
Yeah, the DeLorean hasn't arrived yet, so yeah.
I think as far as like production stuff goes, that pretty much covers most of it. My questions are more Metal Gear centric right now. That's kind of what I'm interested in.
Okay, we'll get there soon then. Okay, so Ben and Carl, do you guys have any questions? On the production side of things?
Not production, no.
Not Star Wars Rebels yet, okay, Ben? Not yet.
It's coming.
Can't open that door yet. We can't open the Metal Gear or the Star Wars doors yet.
Oh, we might as well get into it right now. I don't know.
Well, so I think we should probably get through the community questions first before we get into the dark discussions of the episode.
Why is it going to be dark?
Before people leave.
You don't know me and my hot takes. Everything's gonna be dark. Come on.
All right.
I appreciate them. They're great.
I do too. McKenna, did you have anything else in your posted notes that you wanted to get out before we go into the community questions?
One more. Okay. Because
He's always so polite about it.
What is your favorite specific part of the production? Like, I love doing soundboard. I love doing audio, like making sure nothing was peaking or anything. Like, that was my favorite thing when I was in a studio. So I didn't know if like you had something similar, like if you loved doing the lower thirds or whatnot.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing like lower thirds, also helping out with like B-roll on Up at Noon and stuff like that. I did help out. I think I started in the studio even before doing lower thirds with audio board stuff, and like Kevin, I'm terrible at it. Like, we both have really fucked up ears, I'm gonna be honest, and so like I think mine are maybe a little better than his, because I'll be able to tell like when something's crackling or peaking or an audio file sounds a little compressed, whereas like we'll play like two different audio files for Kevin of something that's definitely compressed and something that's not. He's like, I'll hear the difference, dude. And it's like, all right, Kevin, like we need to fix those ears, bud. But yeah, I was running the Metal Gear Solid stream yesterday, right? And like for the first 30 minutes, someone was like, yo, you're really loud and the game's really soft, and like everybody else is coming in fine. I was like, fuck, I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying my best to read the audio peaks in OBS and all that stuff. So honestly, the technical directing side of it is really my favorite, especially of like, I got to technical direct a couple of episodes of Up at Noon, which was like the closest kind of analog of like what we did. It kind of funny because like podcasts for IGN were always like pre-recorded, so there's a little less like live, like, oh god, we got to get this, and we got like 30 seconds B-roll and stuff like that. Yeah, like technical directing Up at Noon was like, it was so fun because it was like, all right, like we're on them. All right, I'm gonna switch over to this camera angle, get this one shot of Brian. All right, camera person in the room, can you like focus in on whatever dumb toy that they're showing right now and they're gonna play with for the next couple of minutes and follow it around, and like, let's go to that. All right, they're about to go to this like prepackaged video, B-roll, go over in like 3, 2, and then like we chill out after like a 10-minute like video play. plays. It's like, all right, my B-roll guy's like, okay, like we're going back in 3, 2, and then I switch back over, telling the B-roll or the lower thirds person, like, all right, bring those up, take those down. Telling the audio person of like, all right, we've got B-roll coming in, we want to hear a little bit of it. I loved that, and that's definitely because I was raised by my mother, who's definitely a little bit of a micromanager. Having that in a live element where I'm like, I get to control everything, and that is definitely a trait of mine that is sometimes good for live production stuff and sometimes bad for personal reasons of like, I need to be in control of myself all the time, and that's why I hate being on planes, because I'm not in control of what's happening to my livelihood right now. And so that's why I have a great fear of planes, and I understand that's why I have a great fear of riding in planes, and being passengers in cars, especially when they're driven by Kevin Coelho. So really just like being able to like have like it this is going to be pretentious as fuck, and I'm very sorry, but like those moments where I got to live produce Up at Noon, and like I even like produced a little bit and technical directed a little bit of Gamescom when we went to Gamescom. It felt like conducting an orchestra, because everything is like coming together, and like when it's working and everything's coming together in such a beautiful way, and like everybody's on top of it. I feel like I'm conducting something, and it's nothing feels as good to me in that live production setting. That's absolutely by far and away my favorite part of it.
Just then when you were like going through like do B-roll, take down lower third, I felt like I was back in the news studio. Oh my god, we're live. Oh my god, yeah. I need to make sure about the ball. Yeah. Oh my, I get it though. Yeah, it's been.
By the way, McKenna, we need you to do lower thirds in post for this video.
Okay. Yeah. Give me the file.
McKenna, make sure you spell my name right this time.
And that was one time. It was one time. I think
we were doing a show. We'd already done like four episodes at this point.
This was the beginning too.
This is
okay.
The start.
Hey, the beginning is always tough.
But you would think she would have the one. I'm the only host of this show. And so it's just one name she has to have on this.
Not the only lower third, I'll tell you that.
It wasn't the only one, but you could have reused the same one for me.
It was when I first spelled it.
Okay. Yeah, because let me tell you, like the amount of times I messed up Charlanazard from when Alana was hosting one of the hosts of Beyond's. I had to like, it's to the point, and I even do it like when I tweet out of like, oh hey, this person's on our show. I just go directly to their Twitter and just copy and then paste because I can't trust myself. Yeah. So and definitely being like on a live production for like a Comic-Con or like actors are coming in, I'm like, I can't screw up this person's name. Yeah. I have seen this person. I just learned I've seen this person definitely in a couple movies. I just learned their name today, and I can't fuck it up. So I understand that.
What I was gonna say is, as somebody that was kind of like tech in theater and was like in band in high school, having like a stage manager and a director is basically the same feeling of like the orchestra and just like the whole conductor like making everything move and like you go. It's the same feeling.
Yeah, it made me greatly appreciate, like, not that I didn't appreciate people running backstage stuff and technical directors for theater productions, because like they were all part of the drama club, just like different sections of it. So, but it did make me greatly appreciate of like the kind of constant live stress that they're going through of like every single aspect that they have to think about, whether it's making sure that assholes like me who are
the curtain is closed, you have 30 seconds to move this table on stage and fucking get out.
Like they're trying to get me to be behind curtain so I can come out at this cue, and they're trying to make sure props are all set and stuff like that, and moving sets and stuff like that. It made me greatly appreciate that aspect of it that I did not think too deeply about, other than helping make sets back in high school. So
if you have a quick minute, you should take some time to go listen to our episode with Tommy Earl Jenkins, because he's a huge theater guy. You know, a lot of people know him for Death Stranding, but he's got a lot of theater background. He actually went abroad and traveled doing theater productions in different languages even. It's a really fun episode. I love diving into that with him because I'm also a former theater kid. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. I can't imagine trying to perform in a different language. I took French for 4 years, and I still can't tell you anything in French, so I just don't have the brain for it.
Now, Barrett, you were just talking about not getting in a particular person's car. Now, that's a perfect segue for this community question that we have from one Hoodie Peaks. Now, Hoodie, just so you know, never get in Hoodie's car when you're playing Fortnite. Okay, that's the segue there. Now, Hoodie asks. He just asks simply, "How are you, Barrett?" That's his question. How you doing?
It was a long week, but I'm feeling good. You know, like I'm always thankful that the week ends producing Xcast, because even if I'm having the worst Friday ever, the second I'm on content with Mike, like my day is just automatically better. And that's just like I want to throw that love out for Snowbike Mike, who is just constantly a beacon of positivity that I just can't help but smile around. So like I was on Xcast this week that just came out this morning over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames and podcast services around the globe. And Paris had to drop out kind of last minute, and I was like, I can fill in if if we're just talking games and stuff, like I can fuck around and find out. And someone commented on the YouTube comments earlier in the day, and it was like, oh, like Barrett smiling and kind of like forced laughing and all this stuff, like it's kind of fake, like stop doing this stuff. I'm like, no, man, like I'm just naturally happy around Mike, and I love talking with Mike, and so I'm just naturally like I'm smiling, I'm vibing, I'm laughing because he's a goofball, and I love listening to Gary and stuff. So
you're amazing, my guy.
And so yeah, like it was definitely a long week, a lot of conversations around everything and all aspects of life where we currently are as a society. And it kind of ended on a nice little high note with Mike. So I was able to kind of wake up today and kind of chill out and hang out with Alyssa and Lulu. And again, we just went on a walk on the beach and played with Lulu. So I always take in the weekends as much as I can. So I'm chill. I'm chill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's so funny because I was thinking the exact opposite. Like talking to you now, it's like I was thinking about how strong you were, how much you were projecting, like as a podcast, person who in this case isn't on a lot of content except for the new stuff you've been doing with Roger and oh my God. Why did I just forget Blessing's name for a second? That was so weird. Except for that show, like you don't get a chance to be on a lot of content. So I was just thinking, like this whole time we've been talking, like how strong you've been, and everything. Just talking about all the stuff you're talking about, and it helps that you're passionate about it. But at the same time, like I was like, why isn't Barrett on more content? This is great.
Well, thank you. I've heard that compliment before of like being like podcast ready, and I always appreciate that love that way. And I will have to shout out. I do think my theater background definitely helped out with a lot of that, and discovering like in the early days of making content on YouTube with my friends Ricky and Chelsea, just like making this small YouTube channel where we're just essentially ripping off the Game Over Greggy show, and kind of learning how to be on like putting like a performance, but in a different perspective of there is the performative side, but then you also actually get to be yourself, which is what burned me out of theater, where I was constantly getting typecast as villain roles, and it was fucking with me mentally a lot, not being good people, and so that's why I kind of stopped doing theater and realized that I hated doing it, but missed that performative kind of aspect of my life. And then when I found Kind of Funny and kind of put together of like, oh, this is kind of what I'm looking for, of like having this like fun performative kind of thing, being on camera, but then also getting to be yourself and be passionate about like whatever the hell you want to talk about. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Carl, what's your community question?
Yo, so this is from Aces Wild. They ask, Step Brothers or Anchorman?
I know why.
I'm gonna say this without having watched either in a few years, because I feel like, especially with comedies, it's hard to go back to movies, even from beyond 4 years ago.
Sure.
So this is just kind of throwing it out there with just memory. I feel like I was always more into Anchorman. I just think of those highlights of you look like a big blueberry, and just like Bob Dylan once said, "As times they are a changing." Ron Burgundy never listened to that song, so he had no idea what the fuck he was talking about. Yeah, there's just like I remember loving that movie growing up, and I feel like by the time Step Brothers had come out, I was like not as like into like the Will Ferrell and like that whole crew. Like it took me a couple of years to like finally watch Step Brothers and like appreciate and be like, oh, I enjoyed this. This is funny. So I personally go just on instinct, Anchorman.
Awesome.
Not Anchorman 2 though.
Wait, McKenna, what's the context? What's the context, McKenna? Or
Ace, he was upset that I had never seen either of them. So
was this a Fortnite conversation?
In his head. It was
this a Fortnite conversation?
This was a Fortnite conversation.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the movies were in his head, and it presented him.
And we ask all community questions, no matter the context. So.
All right.
It's probably not smart. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I don't really know how I feel about that rule, Phil, but sure, whatever. It's not my show.
That's true. It's not. Caesar, why don't you go ahead and ask your question on that note?
I can say it's not.
I have two questions. So
exactly.
Dire show comrades. Okay, so I have this one. Bear with me. I already know you probably can't answer this question, but I already made a prop for it, so we're just gonna go for it. Matt, Reclusive Dragon asks, so how many video walls can we fit into this baby right here? Into the new studio? How many
video walls? I definitely can't answer that question because, you know, talking to Kevin, talking to him, I know their plans, but also I haven't actually been to the space. So I've seen videos, so I've only seen as much as y'all have. So I don't have like still a physical understanding of how big that space is.
Funny because like the weekend everybody went, you were sick, right?
Yeah, I stupidly let my mother guilt me into going back home because I hadn't seen family in a year and a half, and then I came back. Thankfully, it wasn't COVID, but I got a cold from somewhere back home, so I just blamed the entire city of Cleveland for not letting me hang out with my friends for the first time in a year and a half. So yeah, I was pretty much just knocked out for that weekend. Sadly, reading and catching up on My Hero Academia manga just that entire weekend, and sadly looking at like Tim sent me like a video of like, hey, like here, like I'm gonna walk you through, and I'm like, yeah, that seems cool. All right.
Better safe than sorry, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it was one of those things where I think it was like Roger was flying in that Thursday, Mike was driving down, and like the first thing that we were all gonna do together was that Friday. And I think it was like, I want to say it was like Wednesday night. I was doing a different podcast. I was doing a Nintendo podcast with Alex O'Neill, and I had like by the end of it, I was like, I kind of feel kind of weird, like maybe the early callings of a cold. And then the next day, I like woke up and I was like, definitely like, all right, like this kind of sore throat is staying. Maybe it's something else. Who knows? And then it was like halfway through the day on Thursday, I was like, fuck, I can't hang out this weekend, and this makes me very sad. And yeah, like I was telling Alyssa, and she was like, oh well, like we shouldn't worry about COVID, right? I was like, I just came from like I was in the airport a week ago. It could be. So like so thankfully we were able to get a COVID test for me the next day, and thankfully it was not COVID. And so it was just like, all right, just gotta stick it out this weekend and hopefully be able to see the crew at another point in time.
I did enjoy the Photoshop that came out of it, though. With you at the table.
I hate it. Crop me in between someone. Don't have my face covering Jen's mother. I felt like an asshole.
Wait, who did that? What?
I think it might have been Roger or Andy who just like, or no, I think it was Tim, because I think Tim was the one who was like, I did the best that I could. I like my face is crudely photoshopped on top onto Jen's mother's face for like it's at the end of like the kind of studio quote unquote like re-reveal video that we put out like a month or so ago, and at the very end it's that picture of all of them at the restaurant, but instead of Jen's mother it's me, and I was like, crap me in between Roger and Cool Greg or some shit. Don't
I just love
have
how
me awkwardly front and center.
done.
Yeah, Ben, it's your calling. You could like fire one.
You guys could hire Ben. Yeah.
No, because Ben would have just put in a lot of words, and that would have upset Nick, and we would have gotten into that whole cyclical fight.
Mommy.
So many words.
Yeah.
Oh,
Except Barrett.
Would have just shrunk.
I found it, and I've never noticed this. That is horrible.
It's horrifying. It's horrifying.
I've never. Oh my god, that's awful.
Gage, why don't we hit your community question?
Okay. This one comes in from Johnny, good friend over at the Super Video Bros. He writes in with a simple question: do you like Jeff Rosenstock?
Is this like a community member and I don't know who they are? I feel I don't know who that is.
Okay, I was
Yes,
like, either
Jeff
this is somebody
Rosenstock-
Barrett
I
doesn't
looked it up.
know.
Jeff Rosenstock, he's like he's an American singer-songwriter. He's like a punk ska.
Oh, I've never heard of this man, but you know, I respect ska like everybody else should. So if he is part of the ska world, I respect him. I know nothing about him though.
I was gonna say this is either somebody Barrett doesn't know, or there's a fucking really deep inside joke that he's.
Extremely deep.
I'm sorry that wasn't really an answer. I apologize to you and to Jeff Rosenstock for not knowing who Jeff Rosenstock is.
Yeah, I'm sure Jeff Rosenstock will be watching this.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. 100%. Someone's gonna tag him in it. Ben, did you have another community question?
I sure
Okay,
did, Phil. Oh, you want to go? You go, McKenna.
Do you have a community question, McKenna? Or
I do, but I just figured we go around table.
or I
It's
said
fine.
McKenna
Oh,
because she hasn't shared her community question.
Why is every...
I don't know.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know what just
One person
happened.
starts
Wait.
talking, it's like, what'd you say? And somebody else starts talking, and then somebody else. Jesus.
it's the classic Discord thing, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I do.
Okay, McKenna, with the deer and headlights, on your face, let's go ahead and have your question first.
Okay.
Shut up, Ben.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I don't know what's going on.
Shut up, Ben.
Mark Freeman at the Indie Boy One asks, what aspect of your job are you most looking forward to when Kind of Funny goes back to the new studio? Also, thanks for all your hard work.
Well, thank you, Mark Freeman. Like we were talking about earlier, like I'm excited to get to that classic technical directing aspect, and I'm really honestly excited to see like what Nick and Kevin kind of plan out for that side of the studio, of building out like a technical director area and not forced into a very small part of a room in an apartment with wires all over each other and stuff like that. Like my imagination runs wild with like what they're going to be doing, because you know, like the kind of more like traditional side with like IGN, like I miss being in those kind of rooms with the technical directing. So I'm wondering like where we're gonna go with that. That'll be fun. It's also just like playing around again. I need to stop myself from saying anything. Playing around the set, I think, is gonna be really fun as well. And just I really look forward to thinking of different types of content that we can make with what we're going to be going into the next era of Kind of Funny for. So it's there's a lot of excitement for the new aspect of the studio. So, but I think the one solid answer I can give is just being back and doing more traditional technical directing. Not that I haven't appreciated learning how to do all this stuff and translating it to a home kind of environment, but I miss like working on the ones and twos and all that stuff. So yeah, that's my answer.
Nice. I should also say, Barrett, for
All
the
right.
record, if you do wind up saying something, we're not live. I can always edit anything out.
Yeah.
So you don't have to stress out too
No,
much.
I always just try to
So,
train myself, okay? Just in case,
Right.
case.
There's also
all right?
this might come out after Wednesdays in case there's any.
Yeah, this will also be in like a week, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, it'll probably go up Saturday, next Saturday.
Okay. Okay.
There's time. Also, shout out to Mark.
So if you want to break any laws,
What?
Yeah.
Why did that escalate so much?
I don't know.
That's easy.
Okay, Ben, you're off silence now. You can ask your question.
Oh,
A
thanks,
little
Phil. Thanks,
arson
Phil.
never hurt anybody. Sorry.
God damn, Cesar.
Wow. We could probably edit that part out, you know?
Yeah. Fortnite. There. That's my excuse.
This question comes from Marcus Moller. He just says, Boss Baby's honest opinions on Legend of Korra. What are your
I
thoughts
love
there?
Legend of Korra. I know there's a lot of discrepancy in the fan base of whether it's as good of a journey as Aang's journey. For me, it's different. You know, Aang's journey for those. Well, it's 3 seasons, right? For Aang, yeah. That was like a full. There was an entire journey across all of that entire show. Whereas Korra's journey was very different, unfortunately, because of the executives at Nickelodeon forcing production to kind of crunch in 3 seasons at a time, like all into like one kind of creative sprint, right? So, well, I don't know if like the full show is as well as cohesive as I think the entire show of The Last Airbender is. I love each individual story. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a one complete story, and then Korra, the way it's structured, is like more of these like shorter stories that do connect to each other thematically and plot wise in certain ways, but it's a very different journey that she goes on, which I personally appreciate. I constantly think of both shows as one show together, because it is very much tied closely together. One of the seasons in Korra is my favorite between both shows. There's just a lot of things thematically that I absolutely love. I think it was kind of they were trying to grow that show up and that universe up with its audience, very much akin to like what Harry Potter did with the first few books, and trying to grow up with that audience. And I think they understood of like, all right, like we're going to try to capture this audience with the Avatar: The Last Airbender and introduce them to a hero's journey story for this new generation, and then to have that same audience for me. Korra, I think, debuted, what was it, like 2012? Like I was in high school, and I was ready for new Avatar, and I was at the age where I was like, hell yeah. And like the first season when that was coming out, I was absolutely in love with it. And then, stuff gets kind of weird and freaky in season 2. And there's a lot of things that go really fast that you can't, that they unfortunately couldn't flesh out in the way that they wanted to get to the great stuff that you get in season 3, which I think is my personal favorite season across both shows. So yeah, I personally love it. I understand why people have their frustrations with it. And I hope those people understand that wasn't a creative choice. It was, creatives being forced by executives to crunch through and write a 4-season story in a very short amount of time.
Great answer.
And then, does anyone else have a community question? I think I have the last one. Okay, you have one more.
I have one more. Hold on.
I've got one too. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. Quentin Tarantino. No, just kidding.
Oh no.
That was a ridiculous thing to see last night. Anyways,
watch. What's it? Phil, I don't know if you watch Next Gen, but I think that was a conversation that it came out of Kind of Funny Next Gen. So
yep.
If you want to support over on patreon.com/kindoffunny, every month, Roger, Blessing, and I essentially do the Kind of Funny podcast, but it's the 3 of us, the Next Gen of Kind of Funny. And we learned some things about Roger and Blessing on this month's episode that were very questionable.
Twitter saw Blessing, so I can't wait to see what Rogers was. Anyways, Dan, I guess it's Daniel, I don't know. But Dan Lee Partida on Twitter, at Dan Lee Partida, he asks, what's the timeline on the Arkham video series on Kind of Funny? I just finished collecting all the Riddler trophies from the 4 games and was reminded of it.
First off, props to you, because I've never done all of the Riddler trophies, specifically in Origins, because the Riddler trophies in Arkham Origins, trash. I've done it for the other 3 games. I did it once for Arkham City, maybe twice for Arkham City, and never again, because Arkham City's Riddler trophies are second worst. But yeah, shout out to you for collecting all of those. I have nothing to say today. That was a project that was very interesting to kind of start up, because it's kind of the 3rd big Barrett Courtney project ever since I started like the in reviews with Zelda in review and Assassin's Creed in review, and now we've got this mini video essay series about the Batman Arkham games. And what's different about it is, like, with Zelda in Review and Assassin's Creed in Review, those are both projects that I'd kind of come up with the idea for. I had like kind of a very concrete vision of what I wanted the end product to look like. Whereas with the Arkham videos, that was actually something of like, Tim knew I was already working on Assassin's Creed, and he was looking, this was back last year, and he was looking ahead of like fun stuff that we can make for 2021. He was the one who actually came to me and was like, hey, at the time we thought Gotham Knights was coming out this year. I knew there was no way it was coming out this year. And he was like, what's like, do you think this would be a cool idea of like you doing some like almost blessing show style video essays about the Batman Arkham games to lead up to the release of Gotham Knights, and like have one come out every week, like starting the month before Gotham Knights comes out, and then like Gotham Knights comes out and we do like a full blown, like we'll do a review, like hopefully you'll have time to like play it and like do another video essay for that game and stuff like that. And so I was like, yeah, all right, cool. What are these video essays about then? Because I didn't want it to just be another in review. Because I after Zelda in Review, I know people were like, oh, do Batman Arkham in Review. You love the Arkham game so much. We want to see you make content around that. And it was like, I didn't think that was nearly as interesting as Zelda or even Assassin's Creed, because those are both such long franchises where it's been a while since I played certain games. I don't really know. Like, the interesting part for those in reviews were like, I don't know where the ranking's going to end up. And like spoilers for Assassin's Creed in Review, like that number one for that ranking, I was like, I did not predict this. I thought this would have been mid-tier, maybe even lower. And the fact that Syndicate ended up as my number one, I was just as surprised as a lot of people were. Not nearly as upset as some hardcore Assassin's Creed fans were, but I was like, that's the fun of those in review series of like even Zelda, where it was like it'd been years since I'd played Wind Waker, it had been years since I tried Skyward Sword, and that was like the fun journey of that, of like kind of going along with that journey with the audience of like, all right, I'm experiencing these games and kind of reviewing them as I go. Whereas Batman, it's like, it's 4 games. I play them every year because all I do is replay games because I'm a broken human. And they're just like a fun, like I know those games except with Origins, maybe like the back of my hand. So it's just like fun comfort food that I go through. So I was like, I don't want this to just be, I review the game in a 2021 perspective and rank them as I go. I don't think that's nearly as interesting. I know where the ranking's going to end up. And so it was like that fun couple of months of figuring out, all right, what are these video essays going to be about? And so that's why I think the kind of turnaround on these videos, even though probably at the end of the day will be shorter than Assassin's Creed and Zelda in Review, because it'll be four separate videos that are definitely kind of trying to hit the blessing show style kind of time frame there. It took a while to figure out like how to deep dive into stuff, which is content that I used to make even before, IGN. And like I was making video essays way back in the day, like trying to deep dive into the Star Wars prequel trilogy and like try to figure out what the hell George Lucas was doing there, and going into interpretations of BioShock Infinite. Like that was stuff that I was very passionate about back in the day. And like Zelda in Review and Assassin's Creed in Review were like kind of like that, but not really getting into the weeds of interpreting themes and getting into like gameplay mechanics and how they attach to those themes and stuff like that. So it took a while to really figure out what I wanted each video essay for each game to be about. And at the same time, I was trying to have a connecting thread, a connecting theme for all 4 videos to make it feel like a cohesive series, and to make it feel like it's all building to kind of a overall point by the end of it. So that took a while for me to do, especially at the same time working on Assassin's Creed in Review. So I think I finally started writing those scripts. I'm trying to remember when Assassin's Creed in Review came out. I think it was like in February. And so I think I finally started those scripts in like mid to late February, finished those in April or May. And then by then it was the kind of old school IGN thing of like collecting assets and kind of color coding of like what footage I want to be shown when, because if you don't know, I'm not editing these videos, even though I edited Assassin's Creed and Zelda in review. The good boy Roger Percorny is going to edit these because he's a much better video editor than I am. I love video editing, but there is a certain finish and quality that he is able to deliver that I really wanted to have for the presentation of these videos, because if it was just me, it'd just be like B-roll with no fun graphics, just with my voice, and that'd be it. And but we could have just done that and call it a day, but I wanted something that had that kind of quality for maybe people who don't know who Kind of Funny is and like Batman Arkham and come in and like, oh, these are cool videos. So yeah, I spent like a good amount trying to collect everything that I could for Roger to make just like gathering footage as easy as possible for him. And yeah, it's still in post-production right now. Nothing to say today. But they are still coming this year, I will say, because the original plan was to have them lead up to the release of Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights, predictably so, got delayed. And so we were like, when's a good time to release these videos then? And we quickly kind of pivoted to another release schedule that I think will make sense. So be on the lookout soon. Maybe there will be answers very soon. Who's to say?
Well, I definitely don't feel abandoned with that answer.
Hey,
Phil,
Boo.
come on.
Sorry, I apologize.
We've had plenty of shows where we talked about abandoned.
I wasn't saying any more than that. I was just gonna make the joke.
I don't want to throw my chair anymore. I'm good.
Man.
All right, Ben, did you have another community question?
Yeah, this one just comes from Please Be Excited, and it says, obviously, Barrett, you're the rebel, the cool kid at Kind of Funny. Have you considered changing your handle to Bad Boy Barrett? Is that something you've considered?
No, because I don't see myself as a bad boy.
He just said he doesn't like to be typecast as the villain, Ben. What are you doing?
It's not the villain, though.
He literally
Cool.
just said,
It's
are you
rebel.
not paying attention?
Well, I like you're saying like a more cool, like he's a bad boy kind
Exactly.
of thing. So I get it in that context. I understand it in that context.
Before we get too far into that, we do have another community question from Brett. Harry Wiz Gaming, who says,
that's the handle.
"How can I make you happy boy Barrett?"
Oh, there we go.
So I just want to throw both of those out there.
Yeah, since they're kind of related. Yeah, I've seen people call me Bad Boy Bear, and I always appreciate that, and I always find it funny. Yeah, and that's the question I would get the most common, especially when I was Twitch streaming for a while working from home, and people who didn't even know Kind of Funny were like just coming in because I was playing a game that they were interested in. They're like, "Why are you sad boy? Why are you sad? Sad boy?" And they would just like spam that, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm tired." Which is why I put a frequently asked questions in my Twitch descriptions, which of course no one read. Yeah, I deal with a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, a lot of things that are cooking up in my brain that I have been working on for a very long time in my life. And so, I had a Twitter handle back in the pre-IGN days that was like kind of a nonsense Friends reference. And eventually I was just like, I need something better, something that feels more like myself. And so I kind of wanted to own up to that. Like, yeah, I deal with mental issues just like a lot of us do, even if we don't see it quite yet. And so I put it in there as kind of like an alleviation of just like it kind of, for myself at least, like kind of like, yeah, like I'm an emotional dude, whether it's angry or sad, or I'm crying about My Hero, or I'm angry at Kevin because he likes one Harry Potter movie over another and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's where the name comes from. So I definitely tie myself more to the sad, emotional boy that I am than the bad boy that sometimes people associate me with. And then how do you make me a happy boy, Barrett? That's not on you. That's on me, and that's on me to kind of work through my own self and to kind of work on that with myself and my loved ones. And I'm getting there every day. There'll always be high days and low days and stuff like that. But in general, I'm happy. Like in the moment and stuff. I'm always down to have a good time. So
Yeah.
cried at the beginning of Vivo, so I totally understand being emotional. Like, I don't know if you've seen Vivo yet, but got me real good. It's a new little cartoon musical on Netflix. Lin-Manuel Miranda, and
I think my wife was talking about that coming out soon.
yeah, it's got a really great kind of up style beginning that sends them on their journey, and it got me real good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but I get that. I totally get that with the depression and anxiety. I'm diagnosed with both, and it's tough. It's tough, and it's fun when you use the tags on Twitch, and everybody just comes in, or not everybody. I have friends on Twitch that we know talk. But there was one time where it's just like, "Hey, dude, why are you depressed? You could just like be happy." And it's like,
As
oh,
if it's
you're
that
so
easy.
right. You're so
dude,
fucking
yeah,
right, dude.
it's a choice, bro. It's yeah.
I'm gonna take off that
I'm
text
happy.
right now because it's just like
Because you told me to be happy.
Yeah. It's the like internet. It's like the internet translation. I remember waiting for a bus at one point in high school, and I was just like, I was in my thoughts, I was in my head listening to music, and some like random dude was like, "Hey, put a smile on your face," and I was like, one, that's like a very weird casual way to do the Joker quote, you weirdo. But two, I was like, you don't know where I'm at mentally, man. Like, I'm not gonna smile just because you asked me to. And yeah, so I'm gonna smile of my own accord. And usually when I'm, talking with people and making content, that's usually when I'm in my happy place. So that, because I think that's what confuses people the most. If like I do the sad boy Barrett thing, but like when I'm making content with people and like I'm chilling, I'm vibing, I'm happy and in my element, people are like kind of disconnected by like my actual like kind of on camera persona and the name. So I get the confusion a lot of the times. But yeah.
So Ben, you have a question that you haven't been able to ask in a while.
Oh my god!
To every single guest, and I've been asking it for the past little while, but because you haven't been here. But since you're here, I wanted to give this over to you.
Oh, you're passing the torch back. Thanks, buddy.
I'm giving it back. I'm giving the torch back.
Thanks, dude. And thanks for doing it while I've been on break.
Absolutely.
So, Barrett, there's a question that we ask every guest on the show, and it's in relation to Greg Miller. Obviously, Greg is everywhere at all times. People have theorized, especially on this show, as to how he's able to do that. So we ask everyone, just for a bit of fun, how do you think Greg is able to be everywhere at once? Your theory?
I think he's a time traveler. I think he is constantly breaking reality through time traveling, and we just don't know it yet. Jen's in on it. Porty's in on it. Yeah, I think that's the simplest explanation.
Is it like a Doctor Who thing where he's got a TARDIS and?
It's difficult to say. Maybe it's a TARDIS situation. Maybe he, the power of him going on a laugh-filled rant gives him the power to time travel. Who knows? God. But I think that's the simplest explanation. Or he's just really good at what he does, and he's just really able to just keep up with everything that's going on. But or again, I would probably predict time travel.
I had time travel before. That's great. I don't think anyone said that, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it's the first time we've had time travel specifically.
I love it. That's great.
We've had clones, demons, rejuvenation chambers, twin brothers.
Packed with could you imagine Greg Miller being a twin?
Oh God.
Because which one would he be? Would he be the good one or the evil one?
I don't know if I said this or somebody else said this, but at one point it was like somebody's like, "Well, we've never seen Poe," so it's like,
no, Poe's been on a show. He's been on the Game Over Greggy show, and Greg is definitely posting them.
Have they ever occupied the same space? Because you could have you could record this side and you could record this side.
I don't know if you guys know this.
You never.
I don't know if you guys know this, but unless Greg's got a lot of red hair dye, like the Poe is definitely a different person.
I was about to say, didn't he just post a picture of Poe recently?
Yeah, Poe was in town. I think he was hanging out for the weekend.
Red hair.
He got Tim. He got Tim to do a Photoshop for him.
All right, it's time to get into your guys' nerdy questions before we get too deep.
Have we got enough time?
I felt too deep.
Yeah. I'm chilling out.
Oh, cool.
Saying we have more interviews today.
Oh shit, we do.
Well, whenever you guys need to kick me off, I'm good.
No, Gage
this
Ben
is
want to ask this
fantastic.
question.
No, this has been awesome. I would like to touch on Star Wars Rebels. So, what I would like to know, Barrett, is who do you think we're firstly going to see in the live action series, and who would you like to see in it?
Who are we first going to see in the kind of live action universe from that show?
Obviously, we've got Ahsoka already, but who do you think we're going to see in Ahsoka?
I think the next step is Sabine. I think a lot of people have been wondering, like, where is she at in relation with Ahsoka right now, especially since unfortunately, sorry, spoilers for Star Wars Rebels, which if you haven't watched, you should absolutely watch. The ending of that show kind of sees Ahsoka and Sabine going on their journey to find Ezra. So I think, especially with Ahsoka popping into Mandalorian season 2, I think the next step will be seeing where Sabine Wren is at and like what is she doing at the same time of whatever Ahsoka is up to. Whether or not, I know there's been some questions about if the Mandalorian season 2 takes place before the last scene in Star Wars Rebels. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I think the next natural step will be Sabine. I don't know if we ever get like a live action flashback to Caleb Dune. I don't know if we ever get a live action Zeb, which makes me really sad. Or Hera or anything. But yeah, I think it'll be Sabine, and then whenever Thrawn pops up, which will be inevitable, that's when we finally get our boy Ezra. And so yeah, I think that's where it's all coming to a head. How long Dave Filoni takes to get there, we'll have to wait and see.
Nice. Second follow-up question is, do you think we're ever going to get anything with Hera's son at the end? Obviously, we see that. Do you think he's got some Jedi skills? Do you think we're going to see anything there?
That's a good question, especially for the eagle-eyed viewers for Rise of Skywalker. Hera's ship is in the end sequence of Rise of Skywalker, whether you canonize that in your brain or not. So like it is an interesting question of like, who is it Hera who's still around and still piloting that ship? Could it be her son? I don't know. I feel like for me personally, when a story is done and a character arc is done, like I personally don't feel the need to continue that unnecessarily. And I think for Hera and like their lineage and stuff, I think that ended on a good enough note that I don't think we need to see that continued heritage. It's like my personal problem with anything that's past Deathly Hallows and Harry Potter, that everything after feels like very, very forced and repetitive. When everything at the end that came to an end of Harry Potter felt complete, and everything after that, and that addition to that feels like unnecessary continuation just to have something to continue to, bring in revenue to this franchise that is led by a turf. I'm sorry, that went on a very specific tangent there, and I apologize, but I have very complicated feelings about a franchise that was very important to me. So yeah, like for me personally, I think like Hera's story is done. I personally don't feel the need to see what their kid is up to. I think they can just kind of like live off and at the end of their journey there and just kind of be happy. And one day they just got a call from Lando Calrissian and they're like, "Hey, we're fighting desperately over here. Come hang out with us. I don't know what I'm doing in this movie." And then they just fly over and they're like, "All right, cool." So yeah, I personally don't need to see it. The threads that felt unfinished were Sabine's story, Ezra's story, Thrawn's story. And I just want to see that all come together. I even feel like Ahsoka's journey was finished a little bit, but now she is kind of turned from she went from the Padawan to the kind of traveler to, I think, transitioning into hopefully a master role. And so I think that'll be kind of her role in the long term of this new era of Star Wars that we're going into.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Now with Screencast, obviously kind of having this new format now, which is quite cool. I like it with the obviously just reviewing seasons, episodes, movies. I think that's super cool. And obviously with Tim watching Rebels, or at least he was obviously in conjunction with Bad Batch. Do you think we're going to get hopefully a Rebels screencast at some point? Maybe.
I think I think that is very unlikely. I think probably the next time we do something Star Wars related, whether it's Star Wars Visions that I know is coming out relatively soon and stuff like that, whenever there's an opportunity to talk like in general Star Wars, I will definitely keep asking Tim where the fuck he's at in Star Wars Rebels, because I need him to finish season 2, because season 2 is one of the peaks in that franchise overall. So yeah, I'll keep bugging Tim, and I'll try to get him to give updates and stuff. And like for screencasts, right? That change happened just recently, where it's more of just like screencast is back, quote unquote, but it's more of just like rebranding the reviews and reaction stuff, which I think makes a lot of sense when we already had kind of a show that kind of fit more of that format. But there will so we're doing like specific movie reviews, specific season reviews, like we just did the Bad Batch season 1, but we are recording an episode on Tuesday of screencast with just like a bunch of shows that we've been watching. We have a lot of shows to talk about, like Blind Spotting, Dave. I know Tim wants to talk about High School Musical, the series, and how terrible season 2 has been. I personally want to bring up Ted Lasso and stuff like that. So I imagine like whenever we do episodes like that every once in a while, like that might be a good opportunity for Tim to finally talk some Rebels as well. I've talked about and tweeted enough about Rebels, so people don't need to keep hearing my spiel about that show.
And last one, I just want to know what your favorite moment is from Star Wars Rebels.
My favorite moment? There's two that immediately come to mind. God, now it's sparking other memories. I'm like, oh God, this show is so good. The first one that came to mind specifically was the very end of season 2, that last scene where everybody's in defeat, and there's this kind of like there was a victory, but majorly a loss. And I don't think that franchise had felt anything like that since Empire Strikes Back, which is why I urge people to watch Rebels, because there's such a great journey that goes along in that show that is very reminiscent of what the original trilogy was about, and the themes and the moments and the character building that I think the show reflects very well without retreading familiar ground that the sequel trilogy did. And so, yeah, that moment really stood out to me of like, holy crap, like I have chills. I remember the first time watching it and crying and not being emotionally ready to deal with the repercussions of two characters that had met for the first time in like 10 years. I'm trying to be vague just for possible people who haven't watched it yet, because that's a very big moment. And the outcome of a certain fight, the loss that certain people had and their confidence in themselves, and how that like laid the kind of groundwork for season 3 and season 4. That is great. Without the getting into it, the Twin Sons episode I think is very beautiful. The very the kind of end cap of that episode is very beautiful, with a certain character that has been kind of has never succeeded in his life, and a lot to his own detriment, a lot with the way he was brought up by certain villainous characters, and to kind of finally see his end and where he goes with another certain character, I thought was very beautiful, which is rare for a lot of ways that Star Wars characters find their end. And yeah, I would say those are the two. Like, I don't know if one is over the other. I think those are like the two peaks of that show that are absolutely fantastic.
Nice. That's awesome.
All right.
Gage, now your nerdy questions.
Yeah, let's nerd out, y'all.
Nerdy
Let's
questions.
go.
All right. I just want to talk about Metal Gear. I mean, God damn.
I don't even know where to start with Metal Gear, man.
I don't know if you've heard, but we really like Metal Gear.
We're like a couple hours into Metal Gear Solid 2. It's been so fun to be on that ride with Mike, who has also never played those games before. And the emotional roller coaster we went on this last stream with it all kind of making sense of like why people are like, oh yeah, this was the original Last of Us Part 2, of like the framework and how they're telling the story with two separate playable characters. I was like, oh, I finally get what people were making with that comparison there, and that was like kind of unexpected, and it was a roller coaster. I love the nonsense, especially from the first game. The being able to go back and kind of experience these moments like the Psycho Mantis fight and just little things like that have been really fun. And like honestly, like the weird stuff that we've gotten to, I don't even think like is even scratching the surface of like how weird the series is going to get. Like I feel like what we've experienced so far has actually been pretty tame, because I'm like, yeah, people have like weird like names and weird powers, but there is a lot of like commentary that I'm seeing of like like of nuclear war and commentary of like how war has escalated so much with different countries and unnecessarily so. And so like that part of it I've like been very fascinated by. And yeah, I'm excited. Like it's painful that like we're only doing it once a week, and I know the people who've been watching along have also been frustrated by that. And there have been times like this week we got to stream it twice a week. I will say though, like it is kind of exhausting for me to like stream like the twice a week and then like run a bunch of shows and be on camera for that much time. So it hurts to wait a week, but I know it'll be better for my mental state to wait a week. It's hard to not cheat on y'all and to play my own time, because I really just want to play ahead, but I can't do that to Mike. I can't do that to Bless or Tam. I could do it to Kevin, but I can't do it to the rest of them. So yeah, it's been a fun journey. I can't wait, because people are like still gushing of like even the reveals that we got from Metal Gear Solid 2. People are like, just you wait, man, like the end of this game, getting into 3 and stuff. Like I'm really excited to be playing some of people's favorite games of all time with each different one, right? There's no solid answer. Like some people still love Metal Gear Solid 1. A lot of people love Metal Gear Solid 2, and that's their favorite in the franchise. There's a lot of people who love Metal Gear Solid 3, and that's their favorite in the franchise. And I hear a lot of great things about 4, and varying things about 5, at least with story. I know gameplay is great.
4 is where it's going to get interesting, obviously, without giving anything away. That game has probably just as much time in cutscenes and it doesn't gameplay. So a lot of this,
I've heard of like how long cutscenes get, and I'm like kind of worried about like how are streams gonna work.
It's gonna be awful when you get there, because most of the stream is gonna be. I think the longest cutscene in that game is like 35 minutes or something. That's
not bad. I was like, because isn't there a point like in Metal Gear Solid 5 where it's like an hour-long cutscene or something like that, or doesn't it get to that point? Or I might be misremembering.
I don't think it's that long, but I know there is a cutscene at some point in 5 that is pretty long. I can't remember if it's 4.
I was getting scared that we were going to get to like 90-minute cutscenes, and I was like,
it's like,
oh, like what if we hit this cutscene at like the end of our stream, and then it's like, all right, well.
Yeah, the
guess we're sitting here.
4 is consistently long, though. It's like you'll have one that's like 30 minutes, but then you have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, and you have 10 minutes of gameplay.
Metal Gear Solid 4 holds the Guinness Book of World Records for longest cutscene in a video game at 71 minutes.
Okay,
that's 4.
Take back everything.
All right, well, I will trust Tam and Blessing to be like, all right, if we're getting closer to this moment and it's getting to the end of the stream, I trust them to be like, all right, maybe let's stop here and then let's like chill out for the rest of the stream and talk anime or something, and then we'll maybe pick this up at the next stream. And so we're not like still sitting for a while.
That's an hour and 10 minutes still. That is so fucking long.
That would have to be
If we didn't fill up the bar, that'd be more than half of our stream. That's hilarious.
You guys have been really good about that though. So like good job to you and Blessing and Tam. I've been actually I re-downloaded everything out of my Vita, so I've been simultaneously watching you guys play through it and also re-experiencing Metal Gear Solid 2, and I'm super excited to get back into the rest because I love that franchise so much. It's so, even 5, like I feel like 4 and 5 tend to get the most shit. Like everybody's like, 4 is just a movie, and 5 is like 4. Unfinished and whatnot. It's like I love every single second.
I mean, I hear the love that Blessing has for 5, of like just from gameplay and design standpoints that I'm excited to get to as someone who's also a fan of like modern day stealth games. Like I'm excited to get there. So. Yeah. I'm excited to ride the rest of the roller coaster. Like we've said, we're probably going to take a break a little bit after 4, just because that's going to be a lot of.
You're gonna for sure.
Yeah, like that's gonna be a little bit, and they told me of like play through 4, and then like maybe let's take a little bit of a break, and then like after maybe a month or two, we'll play Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes, and then Phantom Pain.
Have you guys talked about potentially doing any of the co-op in Peace Walker?
Greg brought it up, and I think that's definitely something that we'll want to look into. Like, I think Greg even brought up interest in being part of the co-op for that game. I have no idea what the co-op is like in that game, so I'm interested to see like how it all works. So we would just have to make sure, like, I doubt there's crossplay, so we would just have to make sure that Greg can download it on an Xbox, because I'm sure that's where Mike I will definitely want to have in my co-op seat for that game, and then
For sure.
yeah, we'll probably both be playing on Xbox. So I'm excited to see what that game looks like, because all I know is that it was Greg Miller's favorite game until God of War 2018, and that's all I have. That's all I know about that game. So I'm interested in checking it out.
As an anime fan, you're going to love Rising Revengeance too if you ever play that. It's a treat, man.
If you ever get to that one, that one's pretty cool too. I haven't finished it, but
it's a fun time.
It was
It's nice and short too.
It was very interesting.
It's Platinum. Platinum meets Metal Gear. Platinum games.
All right.
Obviously,
All right, did anyone else?
Don't look into it at all because it is very spoilery. So do not.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking. I'm doing all I look up of Metal Gear is like how long to beat, really, just to be able to be like, all right, like how long, like can we finish 2 by the end of August? We'll see, and like can we spend the month of September playing through 3, and then maybe finishing 4 by the end of like October or November or something like that. So
First,
We also, like-
4, maybe not.
You also need to like consider, like, because for me playing games on chat or on stream is very different than playing games by myself. Like just the energy I'm putting into it, and like it feels like it takes longer sometimes. But
yeah,
it's also
that's what I expected from Metal Gear Solid 1, and I was actually pretty surprised with like the average finish time. It wasn't like finishing it as quick as possible, but just like the median, I think was like 11 hours, and like the game clock at the end of the day was 11 hours, and I was like, all right, like we got through it. And of course, like we're taking breaks where, I gotta pee every like 5 minutes because I drink so much coffee in the morning. I'm turning into Nick Scarpino. And yeah, like obviously, like I'm yelling at Kevin to like shut the fuck up about spoilers and how to tell me to
I was gonna
do
say,
things.
do you feel like you would probably enjoy this more off stream, or like how do you think? Like, do you think streaming it is affecting your gameplay?
I don't know if I can really answer that. It's such like a different world of like how that series would even hit for me if I wasn't playing it with other people. Like half of
this is a series that, like everybody in that chat has an opinion on. Everybody that's watching that knows that game. Yeah. And so I can't imagine playing that game on stream. It's like,
we're getting to the point with the spoilers in chat that I just don't look at chat really often anymore anyway. And I'm just like vibing with Mike, and like that's my journey of experiencing the first time with Mike. So that's like why I've been really loving it. So he's your filter. Well, so yeah, he's kind of my filter, and he'll look at chat and stuff like that. I know Blessing has been helping out with like trying to keep things as spoiler free in chat. So yeah, it's just been like a fun journey with him. So I don't know if it would be the same if I was just playing it by myself without that, like both of us reacting and Mike doing the recaps and stuff, and having Tam be there to like help me out with tutorial stuff at the beginning of 2, because there was like a lot to process there, and I was like, thank God, because I probably would have been banging my head against the wall like a couple hours into this game.
And then they give you the entire tutorial the moment you start playing as Raiden.
What's like, why have us play? It's a similar complaint I have. I love The Last of Us Part 2, but I have a structural complaint where it's like kind of like the way things feel like they restart in The Last of Us Part 2 halfway through that game, just from like a design standpoint. I was like, oh, this is storytelling. This is dope, and I love how the story is being told. But just gameplay design wise, like this feels kind of like like I'm back at the beginning of a different game. So yeah, that was jarring, definitely. I hope we're kind of, to give as little spoilers as possible, we're at the bomb defusing part with Raiden. And so I hope we're, for the most part, out of that segment, because there's a lot of calls with Campbell every 5 minutes of like, hey, here's this thing that you've been doing for the last 2 hours that I'm going to explain to you now. And it's like, what? Why didn't Otacon just do the tutorial? It's so weird.
Colonel, just leave me alone.
Yeah, where's Meryl? That's the only question. Well, I have a bunch of other questions about the future of that game, but like, where's Meryl? They rode off into the sunset together in the first one, past some caribou that Kevin's obsessed with, and like, we have no idea where she's at. It's just Snake and Otagon, and I don't know what's going on. Where's Meryl?
Awesome. Did anyone else have any questions before we go into the little 5 quick rapid fire questions and then close out the show?
No, Gage is not going to be happy with me because I literally have every single Metal Gear Solid game, but I've played all of 15 minutes of the first one and I've died like 3,000 times, so I haven't gone back to them. Because the stealth games are like, I just can't do them, unfortunately, and it's like, it has to be all guns blazing or else that's it. So yeah.
Well, you can
sorry.
do that in later games if you want to. Because the
Awesome.
We're talking about the first one.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The first one where like I had to like kind of relearn
yeah.
of like my thing with like games like Dishonored, where it's like a lot of like it can be stealth, but it can be just like how versatile you want it to be. And so like I was in that headspace playing the first one where I was like, no, I have to be stealth. I have to be stealth and figure out all of this out and maybe not shoot everybody that I see the first second that I see them. But definitely do choke out that same dude at the urinal every time he reloads. So
That's my favorite part about watching the most recent, I guess it was episode 1 of Metal Gear Solid 2, when you're trying to get the photos of Ray and you see that guy and you're just like, I'm gonna break his neck. You go up and just instantly fail the mission.
Yeah, that was because I forgot that he was a Marine, and I was like, I'm not supposed to, kill these definitely innocent people who serve the U.S. military. Yeah, shit, that's a game over, I guess, for that.
One of the armed forces ever done anything bad. Anyways, let's go to the.
All right, five quick rapid fire questions. They're just really silly. Quick. What's your favorite movie off the top of your head?
Birdman. Starring Michael
Favorite
Keaton.
book? It can be a manga or graphic novel.
Work of literature.
I gotta, because there's two. This is a weird book that has
Two names?
the same title of another book, and so I want to make sure that I credit the right author. Sorry, give me a second.
No, you're good. We don't mind filling.
Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison.
That's a great book.
I prefer Invisible Man by Queen, but it's just...
That bass line on that song though.
I would say that for like a very interesting like theory and philosophy type of this stuff. If we're talking just like franchise stuff that I love, it would probably still be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Okay, TV show.
McKenna, McKenna was gonna say something.
Oh, I have fun trivia about the Invisible Man book.
Oh,
what do you got?
On Jeopardy. So there is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, and then there is The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. So most of the time on Jeopardy, articles don't matter. But for any clues about this book, these two books, you have to include the article. Back in December, there was a clue about one of these, and because they give it as an example, like during practice games. And then it came up an actual game, and then that came up. Anyway, that was my fun trivia about this book. I haven't read it yet, but
that's so funny.
It's a fantastic read. That was something that I think it was my senior English class teacher had me read, and I that was like the summer reading before that class even started. And I absolutely loved that book. So shout out one time.
Are they gonna do that with Suicide Squad and the Suicide? That's
the Suicide Squad. Yeah, because that was a confusing thing when I remember talking to my grandpa of like what books I was reading. I was like, oh, I'm reading Invisible Man. He's like, oh, like the science fiction novel. I was like, no, it's very different.
That's funny. So TV show. No, you're good.
I've been having a crisis with favorite TV show. Because there's been a lot that I've been loving lately. That has made me question what my favorite TV show actually is. I'm going to say live action Breaking Bad, animated Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Ooh, nice. Video game.
Persona 5 Royal.
Nice. And then last one, favorite snack. Can be a candy bar or anything like that, but just
I'm gonna go
snack.
Cool Ranch Doritos. Those are all. Or, oh no, the purple Doritos. Purple Doritos. What are those called? I never remember the name.
I should know
Sweet,
this.
spicy, sweet
Yeah.
chili.
Spicy.
Oh, so good, so
I
good.
knew sweet was in there, but I was like, is it sweet, spicy? I don't know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything that you want to promote or throw out there, or where can people find you?
You can find me at Sadboy Barrett on most social media. I mainly just use Twitter, though. Of course, if you want to find any of my work, you can always go over to youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, youtube.com/kindoffunny. If you want to support me and a merry band of content creators, you can support us over on patreon.com/kindoffunny or patreon.com/kindoffunnygames to get some like exclusive stuff like the Kind of Funny Next Gen podcast starring Blessing Adeoye Jr., Roger Picorni, and myself, where it's just essentially a podcast where we just talk about one episode we just talked about Tyler the Creator the entire episode. There's one where Blessing had to admit he thought Quentin Tarantino was a black man, and in that same episode Roger had to admit that he did not know that Rome was in Italy. Just like a lot of just like fun random topics that you can get over there. It's a monthly show. I love doing it every month. So we'll just pass over that fact and not explain it whatsoever. That Roger thought Rome was an entirely different country from Italy.
I just want to say, Blessing made his case last night on Twitter, and I get it. Roger's got explaining to do.
He has no film context. He's not like like a huge film guy. So his introduction to Quentin Tarantino, which I get from film heads, is very frustrating. Of like the first introduction to him was Django Unchained. And so Blessing assumed because of the scripts and a lot of things that are said in that movie, Blessing was like, oh yeah, this was directed by a black man. Like there's no question. And then the slow realization of like, wait, no, he's white. Wait, he shouldn't be writing that movie. And then it was like, yeah, Blessing, like that was a huge conversation when that movie came out.
That's on the podcast.
Oh yeah, that entire revelation, but the conversation of like what he had gone through when he had discovered that was very funny. It was a prime focus of that show.
I get that. Roger has some fucking explaining to do on that.
He tried to justify his lack of understanding of where Rome was, and I was never sold by it. I'm gonna be honest. Right. So yeah, there's stuff like that. Check out Assassin's Creed and Zelda in review over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Passion projects of mine that are very rare, very few and far between, but are very fun, and I love doing them. Be on the lookout for the Batman Arkham video essay series that we talked about earlier, coming soon. Definitely this year. And then I'm not like on like regular shows regularly. Check out twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames every Thursday for the most part. Mike Howard and I are playing through the Metal Gear Solid series for the very first time, and it's been a fun ride so far. We're in the middle of Metal Gear Solid 2, and I'm excited to see where it goes. That's all I got.
Awesome. So I guess that's just another episode of our show. Thank you, Barrett Courtney, for joining us. And you are officially out of our league.
That was 10 times better because of how the microphone kept like just crunching everything down. That was
oh, dang it.
But you haven't done your actual line though.
I was hearing those red lines.
Yeah, me too. I tried to do it away from the mic too. Barrett Courtney, I just want to say you're pretty good.
There it is.
Thank you.
There it is.
I don't. Are you done? Are you done recording, Gage?
I can be. Do you want to say something else?
Oh no, I was just gonna say.
We just closed out the show. We can keep going. It's fine.
Still going. I mean, like.
No, I was gonna say because I thought we were done. I was gonna say like I don't know if you saw The Last Chance, the video that Simply Sassy did, which was like making fun of Nick being an old man.
I think they did a reaction to that video, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I think I had watched that. Yeah.
Phil is the voice of snake in the video.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on, y'all. That was a fun time.
Hey, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I know I talk
anything.
a lot, so I'm sorry if I know I was kind of the focus of the show, but if I talked too much and didn't shut the fuck up, I apologize.
you're great.
Not at all. Not at
I
all.
have that problem.
We
No,
love when
that
people
was
go on
amazing.
rants.
I
It's content.
Caesar-
have that problem,
content.
especially when I'm not a guest.
I was about to say Caesar oftentimes thinks that he has that problem as well, but honestly, he does an amazing job.
Because I'm not a guest.
Whenever I'm on shows or if I'm ever drunk, I'm like, I get in my head or I'm like, I think I'm being super annoying right now. And then I have to like
I'm
select.
always drunk. I'm just kidding.
And then I have to select Greg after the show. I'm like, sorry if I didn't shut the fuck up. He's like, no, you're great. And I was like, all right, cool, thanks. And then like, when in the middle of me being drunk, I'm like, hey, fuck, I'm sorry if I'm being really annoying. And they're like, no, you're lovely when you're drunk. Like you're like a very like outgoing person when you're drunk. And so I'm like, oh, thanks. That's how I used to be in high school when I did a lot of drugs. So
That imposter.
well,
syndrome
thank
is
you again.
What it is.
You were a theater kid.
After this
Yeah,
show,
exactly.
I guarantee you in 45 minutes, I'm going to go, fuck, does Barrett hate me? And it's just going to be the most absurd,
guys were
irrational
great.
thing ever.
Dude, this was really fun.
It's
After every show, I'm always like, it makes sense if they don't want to talk to me ever.
100%. Yes,
Same.
that is absolutely something mentally that we all go through. It's like, do they enjoy being on the show? I have not talked to them since the show. Is everything okay? Do they still like us?
They said
Oh
they
my
wanna
God,
come
downward
back on,
spiral.
but I don't think they actually want to come back. They were just being polite. Oh God.
Yeah, like I talked to the developer of like it was only me and the developer of 12 minutes in the Discord room before everybody came for Gamescast, and it was just him and I talking for like 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, I really hope I'm not making an ass of myself right now because I wasn't prepared to be the only one in this room, so I got to just like kind of hang out and stuff. So
Everyone comes in like, where's the 12 minutes developer? He's like, oh, he bounced. I don't know why.
yeah, like
he had a family emergency or something.
Yeah, sorry guys. We'll just do a normal episode or whatever. But thank you so much. I'm gonna go run, check in with the wife and the dog, and see what we're doing for the rest of the day.
No, seriously, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You guys were maybe joking or maybe being serious about interviewing someone else. Don't work too hard this weekend. Remember all of that. Remember all of that hobby and real work balance. And enjoy every free moment you can.
There was one day where these guys did 6 shows a day.
That is,
I did.
I love y'all and I love what y'all are doing. That is unhealthy. Don't do that. As someone who used to actually do that.
Fair, 2 of those shows were with Joey and Cool Greg, so it was worth it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
We love
Have a good rest of your Saturday.
Take care.
Have a good one, y'all.
Yeah. You too.
Thanks.
Thank you, Barry.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, all that stuff. Okay. Bye.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even do that part of the closeout because we were running over, and I was like, "Oh God."
We ended a while back.
No, we're still going. Are we saying bye? Or are we still going? What's going on? What's going on?
Just cut that shit out.
Okay.
This is